Caleb got some people riled, and it showed up on the YouTube message board where there are some people that disagree with Caleb a lot because he's kind of out there. And but this one particular person I think was a Caleb fan, and he said, but Caleb, you've gone too far. Boo Carter may be a two-way player, maybe, but he certainly doesn't need to be moved to offense full time, which you claimed should be the case earlier this week. So personally, I have to be honest with you. Personally, I have to be honest with you. I don't agree with you, but I want you to go ahead and convince me otherwise, because I think Boo Carter will be Tennessee's best defensive back, not this year, but the next year.
Boo Carter is the deadliest player on this football team with the ball in his hands.
That's hot.
Yes, exactly. And Paris Hilton may be trying to give him a call soon once she sees him play. Okay, so I don't know if he wants Paris Hilton. I'm just saying she's old now. Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm horrible. Boo Carter is the best player on this team with the ball in his hands. He's a deadly weapon. He's also going to not play cornerback. He'll play safety or nickel on the other side. He is not at the level of an Eric Berry on defense. I'm sorry. He's just not where he can just dramatically change the game by playing safety. He's not that caliber. Therefore, when you compare the two, he can make much more of an impact on this team playing receiver than he can playing nickel or safety. Much more. So, and also with Squirrel White gone, Boo Carter with his speed will stretch the field more than anybody else. And I think that Boo Carter would be insanely dominant on offense for Tennessee. I'm seeing, 1,000 yards, another 500 punt return yards, a potential All-American season. I'm telling you guys, I see raw talent. And people are going to be like, oh, but he's got to learn how to run the routes in the offense. Forget that. Just throw him some screens. Give him a screen, and he'll take a screen pass and turn it into 50 yards every time.
That's silly. If you're moving him to offense, he's got to be able to do it all. I mean, if you want to say, okay, make it a poll question. Boo Carter should play offense exclusively, defense exclusively, or both. And I think you and I would agree that if it's a both situation, which is probably the most likely based off who I've spoken to over there, that it's going to come down to basically 5, 6, 7, 8 plays that he's going to be really comfortable running, kind of like Princeton Fant was comfortable running the end around or the different things they did with him. But it's not as if Princeton Fant knew how to play the entire offense at the fullback position, right? So that's what they're going to kind of do, not to compare the players. But that's the scariest option to me. I mean, to me, taking away practice time, Caleb, from one side of the ball to maybe benefit the other side of the ball is the worst case scenario. I would rather them just go all in and say offense as opposed to splitting time. And I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. Frankly, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't mean that as a shot. We just disagree. But I think the worst thing they can do is make him less effective defensively because they have this offensive package in mind. That's worst case scenario, right?
Yes, I agree. That's why I think you play him on one side, and that one side should be offense. Because, Dave, he's playing, in all seriousness, he's playing nickel on defense. When has a nickel ever been like the most impactful player on a defense?
Well, Eric Berry,
Eric Berry played safety. Difference.
Well, not for the Chiefs. He played in the box a lot. He played a lot of nickel. He even played weak side linebacker. And he walked up into the box at times in Monty Kiffin's system.
He was almost always in Monty Kiffin's system. He was walking up into the box. But also we're talking about Eric Berry, a guy who was like insanely talented that could impact the game wherever you put him on defense.
Okay, and I don't go overboard comparing some players to other players. And I feel like that's one of the dumbest things we can do in covering sports. But I trust Fred White. And when I talked to Fred White, the former Vol, the first name that came, well, two names came out of his mouth, and he said a combination of Del Carter and Eric Berry. Now, if he's that good,
combination of just the best defensive backs of all,
if he's that good,
this guy's a combination of Michael Jordan and LeBron James.
He's with a little Victor Wembanyama thrown in. But if he's that good or even approaching that, you wouldn't move him at all, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't move him at all, but I can't say he's that good. Okay.
That would be like Reggie White to offensive guard.
That's oh my God, Austin Powers came to mind. I want $1 bajillion. Okay.
Work Truck's all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle available now. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Truck saves you time with less back and forth trips, and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. Process quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. I just hope that Boo Carter hasn't held them hostage and say, I got to play offense. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an app-hide work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, anything special like cranes, dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you to get you back on the road tomorrow. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, Work Trucks, Clinton Highway, downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, go to worktrucksllc.com, worktrucksllc.com, Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. Now, I think you would agree with me that if he went to the coaching staff and demanded to play offense, that would set a pretty scary precedent. And then you almost just have to say no based off principle, right?
Only if the coaching staff didn't promise him he'd play offense when they were recruiting him. At that point, he has a little bit more leverage. So, I mean, that's kind of the situation we're talking about. Now, here's the way I look at it, Dave. Now, and I'll ask you, because it was definitely different during the early days of Tennessee, but I think the Josh Heupel system, we have to look at this a little differently. On the line, offense and defensive lines, you would largely say oftentimes, like if someone can play both at a high level, you're putting them on the defensive line, right?
There's no question. Philip Fulmer used to say the last stop before the bus stop is the offensive line, because he would take like Cozy Coleman and move him to offensive line. Obviously, Cozy Coleman was athletic enough to do it. But if you didn't make it there, you were headed to the bus stop. Literally, you would get a bus ticket and go home.
I could see that. Exactly. So I think it's the flip, honestly, with secondary versus receiver. I actually think in Josh Heupel's system, receivers like defensive line, secondaries like offensive line. You start with seeing if you can play receiver, and if you can't, you move over to the secondary. Now, I know that's old school. People were like, no, the people who play receiver, I remember some people used to be like, the ones who play receiver are the ones who couldn't play in the secondary because they can't tackle. That's not the case in this day and age in football, okay? That's just not.
Well, no, it's always, is you don't have hands. You don't catch the ball well is why you play defensive back instead of receiver. But that's an oversimplification. I've covered football for 25 years. I'll tell you the difference between most defensive backs and most receivers. It's the most defensive backs. Yes, they can't catch usually, but they're twitchier. They're just a little twitchier. And, you can be a long strider. You can be fast. You can play at a different, not to say you're not fast twitch, but you can play at a different style at receiver. If you're not a fast twitch kid, you are not going to play well in the secondary. It's just not going to happen.
No, that's a very good point. You're not. And
I think Boo Carter's a fast twitch kid.
But also, I mean, I just think you have more value now if you're elite and you can do it playing offense and defense and between the secondary versus receiver. Now, up front, take the defensive line. But in the secondary, I am more, if you can do both at a high level, I think you put them at wide receiver over defensive back. And I think Boo Carter can do both at a high level. And I think he could probably be a better receiver than he is a defensive back.